Hello, as you might already know, I am Evie, and I am from the Netherlands. A Dutch anime girl. The world is becoming weird, right? Where it comes to my country, if you want to get something done, you call the Dutch. We are the best in water management, heavy transport, ship salvage, ocean cleanup, you name it, we got it. This is kind of our thing, and we have quite a name in that. This already started in history. The Dutch were also good in trading and colonizing. For this tiny spot on the globe, the Dutch had a lot of colonies. Yes, often that came with practices that would not be tolerated in current time. But times were different back then. In the 15th century, before it became the Netherlands, the provinces of the Low Countries were themselves a colony of Spain. Needless to say, we had a kind of a problem with that. The people did not like the heavy taxes and dealings imposed by the Catholic regents of the Spanish King Philip II. That he ordered Protestants to be burned alive as heretics may also have played a part. Philip II, like a good inquisitional Catholic king, may have also not liked the Dutch introducing the first form of religious freedom in their territory. Yes, the Dutch were also good in being the first in certain things. Finally, the Dutch wanted to get rid of the Spanish rule and wrote a Declaration of Independence. Sorry Americans, your history books may tell you that your declaration was the first and unique, but the Dutch were way ahead of you in that. Our declaration was called Placard van Verlating of 1581, or the Dutch Act of Abjuration of 1581. The American Declaration was inspired and plagiarized from the Dutch placard. But we don't mind, and I must say, ours was a bit of an ugly-looking paper, but it served its purpose. King Philip of Spain was not amused. And we started the 80 Years' Independence War. Well, that was great fun, lots of cheery swashbuckling, cannon firing, battles between the Dutch and Spanish armies. And the Dutch sinking the biggest fleet that Spain ever built, like it was an English tea party. Yes, the Dutch were already much better shipbuilders than most other countries. Later, even Russian Tsar, Peter the Great, came to our country to learn how to build ships. But in the 16th century the Spanish thought, the bigger the better. Their galleons had their cannons way too high above the water and kept shooting over the lower and smaller built Dutch boats, with low-mounted cannons, poking lots of water holes in the Spanish galleons. That and a little help from a storm did the trick. The Dutch Independence War, okay, probably the Dutch were not really the first in that. The provinces of the Low Countries became the Republic of the Seven United Netherlands. Doesn't that sound familiar? Well, the Dutch were the first in doing so. Weird, right? And from that moment, the Dutch loved to declare war after war, which were fought mostly at sea. The next couple of hundred years, the Dutch broke all kinds of records. When more land surface was needed, we did not conquer another country, we just made new land. And we still do. We had Jan Adriaan's own Leegwater. As a hydraulic engineer, Leegwater was pivotal to land reclamation programs along the flooded coasts of the Netherlands. He designed the huge windmills pumping the water out of lakes. And let there be no misunderstanding, these windmills were powerful high-tech wind-driven machines that generated up to 80 horsepower, which drove huge water auger pumps. This record was surpassed by the steam engines of 300 years later. When translated, Jan Adriaan's own Leegwater becomes John Adriaan's son, empty water. Perhaps we were also the first in silly last names? Yes, the Dutch loved to fight wars, and became rather good at it. The immense Dutch trading fleet was heavily armed, and effectively it was a part of the Dutch Navy. And in that way the Dutch, arguably, had the largest navy in the world, and that turned out to be very practical in all the wars and sea battles in which the Dutch became involved. But now a kingdom, from halfway the 20th century, the Dutch decided there was another way of becoming a better country. Currently, the country of the Netherlands is ranking in many top 10s. To name a few, the best quality of life, overall freedom, best education, best healthcare, overall safety, social security, infrastructure, technical innovation, water management, and the list goes on. There is one Dutch record that cannot ever be broken. And that is for the longest, and also, least bloody war in human history. This was the 335-year war between the Dutch and the Scilly Islands. On March 30th, 1651, only a few years after the end of the 80 Years' War, Admiral of the Dutch fleet, Martin Harpert Zoon Tromp, who lived from 1598 to 1653, declared war on the Isles of Scilly on behalf of the Republic of the Seven United Netherlands. The reason was repeated British naval attacks in the English Channel, which erected an obstacle for Dutch trade overseas. For your information, the Isles of Scilly are a small group of islands off the southwest coast of Great Britain. The archipelago consists of about 145 small islands, of which only 5 are inhabited, by a total of approximately 2,250 people. Later in 1653, the British Act of Navigation followed, which made it even more difficult for Dutch traders. During the 335 years that followed the Dutch declaration of war, not a single shot was fired at the Isles of Scilly. The initiative for the rather late peace treaty came in 1985 from British historian Roy Duncan. He himself lived on the Isles of Scilly and regularly heard rumors that they were still at wars with the Netherlands. Duncan then went to the Dutch embassy in London, which after an investigation was able to confirm that the claim was correct and not a silly story. Indeed, no peace treaty had ever been signed. So on April 17, 1986, the Dutch ambassador to London, Jan Louis Rainier Hy de Koper, signed a paper treaty with the government of the Isles of Scilly, hereby ending the 335-year-old paper war between England and the Netherlands. This makes the Scilly War the longest and only war in history with 0 fatalities. That was it for today. I really hope you liked this video enough to support us on Patreon or directly via PayPal. All the links are in the description box below. And also, please leave a comment if you'd like more of this stuff about the Netherlands.